Hello guys, my name's Drew. I am here with
Travis Pond,
who's the author of...
The Oracle Sphere.
I read this for one of my reading logs recently, and then he saw the reading log and thought we'd do this author interview. So that's what we have for you guys today. You want to tell the viewers what the book is about?
Sure, this is a fun story about three friends primarily that are kind of into a little bit of mischief. They have a history of going out on adventures and trying to learn and explore things around the kingdom in which they live. And they sort of overstep their bounds at one point and get kind of caught and kicked out of the kingdom. And it's their journey of what happens after they get banished from the kingdom and kind of how they can get back in and a race to save the kingdom once they uncover a plot.
It was very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I saw that you guys revealed the cover for book 2,
Right.
which looked pretty cool.
Book 2 is coming. It is right now with the final editing stages with the editor, and she has finally got it all started and it's underway.
Awesome.
She's hoping to have it done by the end of the year, in which case we'll be hopefully releasing the book's first part of 2021.
Ooh, nice, yay. So, I'm gonna just jump into the questions.
Sure.
He saw the questions already, so I don't know if he has them written down or not, but...
I have one, only because I have to come up with names, and sometimes when I'm on the spot, I won't remember the names.
So question 1, do you have any advice for someone who wants to be a writer themselves?
I do, and you know, it's advice that I got. I've wanted to write for a long time. I know that's one of your other questions. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of books, and I've always thought, I want to write, and so I started looking at some writing courses to kind of just see what's involved.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming message that they all said was just start writing. So you just do it. And you just literally put down whatever you can on paper,
Yeah.
and you just start the process. And it was amazing how one day I woke up and I was sitting at work one day and kind of slow, and I was reading, because sometimes at work if it gets slow I'll pull up a book on my computer and sit and read a little bit. And I got thinking, I'm like, you know what? I have a story in here I can tell.
Yeah.
And so that's it. I said, I'm going to do it. And I just made the decision I'm going to start writing. And
Awesome.
from that day, I just started. And it just went. So start writing. Start writing.
You know his...
All right.
That's what editing is for, boys.
That's what editing's for. That's right.
Did you had any favorite characters in the series that you wrote?
You know, I had in this book, which is the series, the two characters that are my favorite is Turris and Ailish, and they're cousins.
Yeah.
And they kind of grow up together because Turris's mom passes away when he's born, and his dad has works in the kingdom and has a real important job, and so he spent a lot of time as a youth growing up with Ailish. But then once he got a little older, he and his dad have a great relationship as well. But the two of them kind of think together, they understand each other, and they're both really tough. They just don't get discouraged very easily, and they just work through things. And that's one thing I like about both of them, is whatever they're facing, they just kind of go, we're going to just figure this out and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because, we got to get it done, and that's all there is to it. And that's why I really like them, because it's a good outlook on life for all of us.
When I first started it, I kind of forgot the cousin part, so I thought they were siblings. So.
Oh, yeah, I've had people tell me, were they siblings or are they a boyfriend girlfriend? I'm like, no, they're cousins.
Nice.
They're cousins.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of already answered one of them, is how do you pronounce your characters' names?
So, in fantasy, names are always kind of funny.
Yeah.
So the main character is Turris, and then Ailish. So Juris and Ailish, and then Seth. That's a tough one. It's short for Sethan. So the king, he's King Sethan, and in the kingdom of Thaven, all the kings always have the same name. They're all Sethan Brannigan. Sethan Brannigan. And so Seth, to distinguish himself, just wants to be Seth.
Yeah.
And
I
then
can
there's
tell.
and then the other two that round out their group is Bran and Aemon. And those two are adults, so they're not these kids in this book are 15, 16 years old when it starts. And Aemon and Bran are older; they're adults. So, but they all they do stuff together.
Nice. And then, was it hard writing a fantasy novel?
Since mostly I read fantasy, it wasn't as hard. The hardest part is creating the world and the magic system, and they have
Which
to
is
work.
very interesting.
And they have to work. Yeah, my magic system's different. I wanted to try to not be so the same as everybody and have it. I don't even call it magic. It's called the Matya, which is an ancient word for an inner power. And the magic's fun in this story because everyone can possess it. Everyone can have it if you want it. If you shun it away or push it away, you can suppress it within you, but it's inside all of us. All of us, and in the story, everyone has the magic.
I noticed
It's just
that.
whether or not they want it.
Yeah, I noticed that on my reread of it. So,
Yeah,
which I didn't caught like the first time I read it.
yeah. Some have it, some don't, and it has to be awakened. You have to awaken it within you, and part of that awakening of it is to desire to have it.
And then there was like, I don't remember which character it was. I think it was Seth, who didn't really understand the magic system himself, even
Yeah.
though he lives in the castle,
Yeah,
which was interesting.
he didn't, and his awakening was rather shocking because he didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah. Especially with the whole cave scene. I won't spoil it,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
So, would there be any other books you would recommend to our viewers?
Any other books? Boy, you really can't go wrong books-wise. I've read so many. Obviously, I recommend The Oracle Sphere because it's a good one. And the second one's coming, and the third one I've already started in the series.
Nice.
And so it's hopefully by the end of the year. My goal is to have that one written by the end of 2021 and be ready to come out first of 2022.
A long time from
So
now.
it is a long time, but the second one's coming. Other books that I would recommend reading, I mean, the ones that I've really enjoyed that kind of inspired me to write this, M.L. Foreman is an author that writes a series called Adventurers Wanted. And it's a kind of group of adventurers. They're dwarves and elves and, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, I guess, Lord of the Rings-ish, very loosely. But the same idea that they go on journeys, but those books are so fun. Alex is his main character, and he's a wizard, and it's just really fun to. They're really good. That one I would recommend. And I love Brandon Mole and
Yes.
those books, Fablehaven
I've only
series,
read
and stuff like that.
The Fablehaven series by him, not his other series. That he
His
has
other
out.
ones are good, but I think the Fablehaven and Dragon Watch that he has out now they're just so good.
Yeah, I read Fablehaven like middle school and elementary school.
Yeah,
for
if
me,
if
so-
you like getting into magical creatures, he is the king of magical creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Yeah, there's a book on my shelf. A World Without Heroes is what he wrote.
Yep.
I haven't read that one yet, but I got that one of the library sales last year without the coronavirus.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't read that one, but I've read his other series, and they're fun. But that one's really good.
Nice. So what was your favorite part about writing in general?
My favorite part about writing is the creating part of it. When you read a book and that movie projector turns on in your mind
Yep.
and you see where it's going, and all of us read the same story and we might see it a little different, but it still creates a cohesive picture. If the author's written it well, you should be able to kind of see where you're going, right? When I'm creating the books, I'm literally seeing the picture and writing down what I see.
Nice.
So as the creative process happens and you start to get into the zone, so to speak, the creation just flows, and you're just typing what you're seeing in your head. And then you have to go back and edit it because you were just typing whatever came to your mind. But then the flow comes, and that's so fun when you're done. It's exhilarating.
That's what I've been hearing.
It's exhilarating to write, and I love it, but I love to create. I have always created stories and thought about them in many different walks of life. Whatever I'm doing, I'll see something happen, and I'll be like, hey, there's a story there, and I'll just kind of, my
Yeah.
mind will start wandering. And to write it down is so fulfilling.
Yeah. NaNoWriMo happened in November, and I was going to do it, and then I was like, no, I'll wait.
Yeah,
So I got a story coming soon, hopefully.
good.
Co-writing it with a friend of mine, which we talked about it
Yeah.
before, so
Yeah.
that's kind of hard to do it, but
It's fun to do with somebody. I've co-written a short story with my wife, actually, and it was a lot of fun. And we're going to turn it into a full novel, so that's
Oh,
going to be a
nice.
whole different genre and everything. But it's one she likes, and it was fun to write, so we're going to try it.
yay. So I have, you kind of answered this one as well. How long will this series be?
This will be 3 books.
So a trilogy
The
then.
trilogy. It's a trilogy, and the 3rd book is going to be so cool.
Yay.
The second one's really good. Oh, the first one's good. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all good, but they just build. So they build and build and build. And the 3rd one is going to be really, really good. And hopefully, no one will see some things coming in the 3rd one that you're not going to see. You're not going to see coming.
Hopefully.
Unless you're really good at picking up very subtle clues that I'm leaving.
Only for Disney Plus and
Dis-
all that.
Disney Plus, that's right. In the extras.
Yeah. And then you kind of mentioned this in the interview earlier, but what inspired you to kind of like start writing?
You know what? That is a good story, and I knew you were going to ask that, so I didn't want to get too far into it. So initially, I've always read a lot. Ever since I was a teenager, I used to read these Mac Bolan books when I was a teenager that were like these military, action thrillers
Yeah.
and stuff. And then when I was in college, I ended up having to take some English classes for my major. I was a science major, but you had to take English classes. And one of the English classes was this technical writing course. So you learned how to write really boring things about science. But the teacher of the course, this particular time, was a student. She was a master's student teaching the course, and she was a teacher of creative writing.
Oh, nice.
So she really quickly went through technical writing, and then at the halfway through the point, she said, all right, if anyone wants to continue writing a technical paper, there's one last paper you write for your final project, turn it in, and you're done. But if you want to learn how to do creative writing, keep coming to class, and I'll teach you creative writing. And so I went and we wrote short stories.
Oh, nice.
And I found the process was so fun.
Yeah.
Before it was all this boring blah blah, bibliography pages, cite
Yep.
your text, sources.
Yep.
It was just, ugh. But creative writing, you could write, and I remember the stories. I wrote 2 or 3 stories, and I had so much fun that when I was in college, I said, one day I want to write a novel.
Nice.
And every book I read, I go, I want to do this. I want to write this. And so finally one day I had read some books and was finishing, and I'm like, it's never going to write itself. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I just sat down and I started creating a world, and I started creating my story in line, and created characters, put an outline together, and I just started writing.
Nice.
And it took a lot shorter time to write the first one than the second one. But I just was passionate, and it just became, it was a lot of fun, and I want to keep writing.
I hope you do, because I enjoyed that first book that I read. So.
Well, thank you.
And then the final question that I have before we do the this and that portion is, did you base any of your characters in real life on people you know?
Yes. I have to be careful, because if they know who I'm talking about and they see this, I'm going to be in trouble. No. 2 of them in this book are based off of people that I know or have known. And it's Bran and Aemon.
Mm-hmm.
So Aemon is, and he knows that I've used it. So Aemon is based off of a lady that I work with, her husband. And he's this kind of short, plump guy with bald head and a red beard.
Oh, nice.
But the guy can do You give him a computer, he can do anything.
Wow.
He's just really intelligent. He's really kind. He's a really nice guy. And so I just looked at him and I kind of said one day, you kind of remind me of a garden gnome. And it just kind of hit that he's a really handy garden gnome. And so Eamon's character is based off of a guy that can do and build and create anything. But he looks kind of like a garden gnome. He's a short, plump guy with a red beard and a bald head.
Oh, nice.
But he cracks jokes all the time, and this other guy's got a fun sense of humor. And so his name's Dennis. It's not actually the same name. But the names are changed to protect the innocent. But he's based on him, and Brian's based on a person I knew growing up. He was a person I knew that I went to high school with who was an acquaintance, and I can't, if I tell you too much, I'll spoil the story, because you'll kind of get an idea of what's going to happen if you haven't read it. With Brian's character, because he's kind of a fun character, but
He was.
his character is based on this person, and I knew him very well, very intelligent, very charismatic, very, very loyal, very strong, and very talented. But he had a side to him that was different, and so they're the same people. The name's not anywhere near it, but I'm not going to say it, because if he happens to see it, I'll go, that's what you think of me! But no. Believe me, I know that this is true based on his character.
Nice.
So I kind of put the two of them in there as people I know, and in the next book there's some other characters in there that are based off people I know loosely.
Ooh.
And one of them even I'm using the person's name, changing the spelling of it, but the name fits with these characters so well that I asked permission. I was like, can I base this off you and use your name? And they were okay with that. So.
That's good. That's the question portion of the interview.
Okay.
And then I will have to come back with the this and that portion, because I didn't
Okay.
send that to you. So
You did?
Not that part.
Oh, I've got it.
Okay.
We can do it. I've got it here. Oh, you didn't send it to him. I think I have it.
Yeah, I know. I sent it to Ellie and you, I think. So.
I had to actually think about one of them. There you go.
Thank you. So, for the this and that question, there's 10 of them, as you know. First one is Christmas or Halloween.
Oh, I'm Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm all Christmas. It's a lot more fantasy and a lot less crazy.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. And then fantasy or contemporary.
I am definitely fantasy over contemporary.
I've
Although
noticed-
I do like some contemporary, I like fantasy.
Yeah. I do mostly fantasy, but also contemporary in between the fantasy, just because how
Yeah.
long most of them are.
Yeah.
So,
This other book that I'm going to write with my wife is actually a period story set back in the early 1900s, and it's a Christmas story.
oh, fun.
So we wrote it as a short story and entered it into a contest that's supposed to come up for next year. I don't think I'm going to win it, but I don't care. I'm going to write the book anyway.
Nice. Mistborn or Elantris?
I have to go Mistborn.
Yeah.
I have to go Mistborn on that.
I read both of them finally, and
Yeah.
like people know that I read both of them finally, and now they're begging me to read book 2. So,
Yeah. Mistborn, though, is so good.
yeah. Hot cocoa or coffee?
Definitely hot cocoa. I don't even like the smell of coffee.
Really?
It's kind of weird. I grew up in a household with a teacher who loved coffee. At least the smell of it. I just didn't even like the smell of it.
This was kind of a random one that I thought of, but like pop music or country?
I am definitely country.
Yeah.
Although I listen to a fair bit of pop, I am a country guy at heart.
Nice. And then Sanderson or Jeff Wheeler?
I gotta go with Jeff Wheeler on that one.
Only-
I love, because he's my favorite. Jeff Wheeler is the reason I'm writing, okay? When I say that, when they say just write, I read Jeff Wheeler's story. I've read his books because I love him, and I found an interview that he had done, and they were talking to him about writing. And he said, he gave his schedule. He's like, I work crazy hours. I have, outside of work, I do a lot of civic stuff and help the community. And I have from 9 to 11 every Wednesday night to write. and then whenever else I can find time. And I figured if he could do it, I could do it.
Yeah.
And Jeff Wheeler's books are so good.
I haven't read any of them.
So good. His King Fountain series, if you wanted to start with one, is by far my favorite.
Nice.
I'm reading a new series he's out right now, and it's really good, but King Fountain's still my favorite.
Yay. Young adult novels or adult novels?
I like both. Like I read, I don't remember his name, Michael Brent Collins, and he writes more adult fantasy. And I like his fantasy because I love fantasy, but I'm about the worlds, I'm about the magic, I'm about the story. I'm not about the romance. I'm not about the love interest. I'm not about... It's fun to have a love interest and create that in the story. It creates fun things.
Yeah.
But some of them take it way farther than I think needs to be in a story.
Oh, yeah.
I like clean fantasy because I just love the story.
Yep.
And Michael Brent Collins does write adult fantasy, and the stories are complex.
Oh, nice.
And they're really fun. But they're clean.
Yeah.
You can read them and not have to worry that, you're going to get a whole chapter of
That was
some encounter with somebody else, and you're like, I don't need this.
I told many
Because it
people.
often doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I told many people about starting Sanderson. I was like, I don't know if I would like his writing. And then I read Elantris over the summer.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I like it.
He's good, and Mistborn is phenomenal. So
so-
I'd like young adult, but I like adult. I just like it to be clean.
Yeah.
So I don't care what it is as long as it's clean.
Sci-fi or fantasy?
I'm gonna go with fantasy, but I do like sci-fi. Now, if you'd have thrown in thriller, I like thrillers as much as I like sci-fi. And
Yeah.
kind of up there with fantasy.
Oh, nice.
I like thrillers too, but I'm definitely fantasy. If I'm gonna go to the store and pick a book, I'm always going fantasy first.
Nice. Be friends with the trios or work inside the castle?
I thought this was an interesting question. So, I would like to be friends with the trio, I think, just because
Really?
they have more fun on the adventure. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind working in the castle either. That's a hard one. I don't know really where to go with that one.
Because I just found that question through one of my friends who I talked about the book with.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to her that there was a library inside the castle.
Yeah.
So she told me to write that one down.
Yeah. Because if you stay in there, and all the cool books are in that library.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I wouldn't mind working in the library, and I could hang out with Ellis and just sit and read books all day.
Honestly, I
Which is
probably
what
would.
Tourist does when he has nothing else to do. He just
Yeah.
goes and sits and reads.
And then I'm so gonna butcher these characters' names.
That's right. Churus and Ailish.
Would you have Tourist sword or Ailish crossbow?
I would have the crossbow.
Yeah.
I think that the swords are cool, and I love cool swords. And Grace Blade, which isn't technically his sword, but is part of the book that there's interaction with, is really cool. And you're going to see even more of that, what it can do in the other books. But her crossbow is awesome.
Yeah.
That thing is made to reload fast. The bolt that she got from the Oracle
Oh, yeah.
is so cool. And in the second book, she really gets good with that thing.
Ooh.
So she uses it a lot, and it's just fun to have. I think that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll tease her for the second book is Aemon gets a new weapon
Oh.
that you might have some sort of an affiliation with, and it is one wild bow staff.
Ooh.
The man can wield.
Yay.
So it's pretty cool. So you'll have to see what he can do with that thing.
Yeah. Hopefully it would be something like Boba Fett.
It could be, yeah, a little Mandalorian action. It'd be pretty good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're
that
welcome.
was hopefully all 10 this or that.
I think so. You got it.
So thank you so much.
You're
it was
welcome.
really fun to do this.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for coming over. I'm glad you enjoyed the book.
Yeah. Rereading the last half though.
Yeah,
Which
And-
is a very fast last half.
it is. It picks up speed towards the end, and it really moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for doing this. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. Turn your notification on so you don't miss any more. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.